Govinda, can you play Mridanga?
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhava ki jai Shri Radha Kalachandji ki jai Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We can recite the Sanskrit and English together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto personality. Godhead. Nashta prayeshu bhatreshu. Right. So on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering a service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart almost completely destroyed. Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master very kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I am eternally indebted to him, and I beg for service life after life. Jai. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8. I believe we're starting with verse 60. I didn't write that part down. Can anyone give us a quick reminder about what's happened so far in the past time? Mike?
So we have Dhruva, who is a Kshatriya, meaning that he's a warrior, and he wanted to sit on his father's lap, who was the king, and his father didn't let him sit on his lap. And so his stepmother, said, you know what, if you want to sit on your father's lap, then you would have to take birth in my womb. And Dhruva, being a warrior, even though he was only 5 years old, this really made him angry. And so he was determined that he wouldn't feel like this ever again. His conclusion was that I should have the biggest kingdom ever, bigger than my father's, bigger than my grandfather's. And so he was given some instruction by his mother to pray to Krishna. If you want this thing, then pray to Krishna. And so Narada Muni, the spiritual master, came and started to instruct Dhruva.
Thank you so much. So now we're hearing that Narada Muni is heading to go talk to King Uttanapad, the father of Dhruva Maharaj. And so this is where we're picking up today, starting with the text. Which one? Do you remember? 63. Let me check. I usually write it, but I forgot to write it this time. Yeah, 63. 63 through 70. And then we'll focus on verse 65.
After Dhruva entered Madhuvan forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narad thought it wise to go to the king to see how he was faring. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narad began to speak. Hare Krishna.
So Narada Muni is going to check on King Uttanapad, because even though he made this mistake, he's still a dad.
Hare Krishna. Text 64. The great sage Narada inquired, "My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you've been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification?"
King replied, "O best of the Brahmanas, I'm very much addicted to my wife, and I'm so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior. even to my son, who is only 5 years old. I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee.
My dear Brahmana, the face of my son was just like a lotus flower. I am thinking of his precarious condition. He is unprotected, and he might be very hungry. He might have lain down somewhere in the forest, and the wolves might have attacked him to eat his body.
He's worried.
Alas, just see how I was conquered by my wife. Just imagine my cruelty. Out of love and affection, the boy was trying to get on my lap, but I did not receive him, nor did I even pat him for a moment. Just imagine how hard-hearted I am.
The great sage Narada replied, "My dear king, please do not be aggrieved about your son. He is well protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although you have no actual information of his influence, his reputation is already spread all over the world." My dear king, your son is very content. He will perform activities which would be impossible even for great kings and sages. Very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world.
And one more verse.
The great Maitreya continued. The king Uttanapad, after being advised by Narad Muni, particularly gave up all duties in relation with his kingdom, which was very vast and wide, opulent, like the goddess of fortune, and he simply began to think of his son Dhruva.
Okay. You'll get used to him pretty quickly. Okay, we're focusing on text 65. Rajovacha Sutame balako brahman Strainena karunatmana Nirvasita panchavarsha Sahamatra mahan kavi Rajovacha Sutame balako brahman Strainena karunatmana Nirvasita panchavarsha Sahamatra mahan kavi Rajovacha Sutame balako brahman Strainena karunatmana Nirvasita panchavarsha Sahamatra mahan kavi. Please chant. Rajovacha Sutame balako brahman Strainena karunatmana Nirvasita panchavarsha Sahamatra Mahan Kavi. Nibo. Sutome Balako Brahman. Strainena Karunatmana. Nirvasita Panchavarsha. Sahamatra Mahan Kavi. Rajo Vacha. Sutome Balako Brahman. Strainena Karunatmana. Nirvasita Panchavarsha. Sahamatra Mahan Kavi. Okay, we can move on to the translation. The king replied, O best of the Brahmanas, I am very much addicted to my wife, and I am so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior, even to my son, who is only 5 years old. I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee. Purport. In this verse, there are some specific words which are to be understood very carefully. The king said that since he was very much addicted to his wife, he had lost all mercy. This is the result of becoming too affectionate towards women. And this isn't meaning like women like your mother, your sister, or even your wife in that way, but it's like too affectionate towards the tendency to enjoy for yourself. And for men, women is women. For women, men is women. Just wanted to give that preface. Sometimes we hear Prabhupada say things that could be taken out of context. We should not have affection, towards women in general. That could be taken out of context, but we have to understand what the message is. Okay, I'll continue. That is the result of becoming too affectionate towards women. The king had 2 wives. The first wife was Suniti, and the second was Suruchi. He was too attached to the second wife, however, so he could not behave well with Dhruva Maharaj. That was the cause of Dhruva's leaving home to perform austerities. Although, as a father, the king was affectionate towards his son, he minimized his affection for Dhruva Maharaj because he was too much addicted to the second wife. Now he was repenting that both Dhruva Maharaj and his mother, Suniti, were practically banished. Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest, and since his mother was being neglected by the king, she was therefore almost banished also. The king repented having banished his boy, for Dhruva was only 5 years old, and a father should not banish his wife and children, nor neglect their maintenance. Repentant over his neglect of both Suniti and her son, he was morose, and his face appeared withered. According to Manusmriti, one should never desert his wife and children. In a case where the wife and children are disobedient and do not follow the principles of home life, they are sometimes given up. But in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, this was not applicable, because Dhruva was very mannerly and obedient. Moreover, he was a great devotee. Such a person is never to be neglected, yet the king was obliged to banish him. Now he was very sorry. Okay, we can scroll back up to the translation. Thank you all for coming to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today, I noticed 2 main points in the purport. One was lust and how lust can blind us. And the second point that I'll talk about is how repentance, or sometimes repentance is kind of a heavy word. We associate that with like the signs that those Christian like evangelists hold, repent or go to hell, so maybe the word remorse could be better suitable for our understanding. But first I'll start with this idea of lust blinding us. Lust is the root of our existence in the material world. And this isn't necessarily gross lust, like how it's kind of considered in the material world, like I want to be with this woman or this man. But lust can also be very subtle. I want to enjoy this material energy for my own pleasure. And this desire to please our own senses completely blinds us, because our senses are never, ever, ever fully satisfied. They always want more. And actually, the more we feed them, the more they try to get. Because some temporary satisfaction comes, and then it becomes an addiction, actually. I wanted to, maybe if you could go to Bhagavad Gita, I wanted to read through the translations from 3:36 to 41. This really highlights this point of lust and the effect that it has on us. 3:36 through 41. We're going to read the whole section. Translation. Yeah, because we're going to read the whole section of translations. It's a training session simultaneously. No worries. Just the section 36. We'll start there. Does anyone want to read these verses? Somebody with a good dramatic voice.
Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world.
So Krishna is telling Arjuna that this lust, when we don't satisfy it, it turns into anger, it turns into wrath. There's another section that explains the whole process of like how lust can just make us completely fall down into the material modes of nature. We'll continue here. We'll stop at 41. Keep going.
Yeah.
But we'll stop at 41.
Yeah, 38. We read this.
Okay.
As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of lust. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization.
Can you scroll back up to verse, I think it was 40. 40. Well, in 39, Krishna is just reiterating that this lust is never satisfied and it burns like fire. I don't know about you guys, but I've experienced this in so many ways. Like when you want something, it can be anything. You want this car, you want this new, like whatever it is. It's like you're not able to stop thinking about it until you get it. And even when you get it, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. The car breaks down or it just doesn't run how you thought it would and you're just not satisfied. So then you want something else. Your lust is never it never just is peaceful. It's always going to chase the next thing. And then through the intelligence and the mind and the senses, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. This is exactly what we're seeing in this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj with King Uttanapad, is that this lust for his younger wife is bewildering his mind and making him be hateful towards his own son. And not even just yelling at him or whatever, but just completely neglecting him, completely ignoring him. And I've heard some research that this is actually worse. To be neglected, to be ignored is actually worse than like people that suffer abuse. If they suffer some anger, some, even physical abuse, it doesn't have as bad as an effect as the children who are just completely like neglected. And so this is a really heavy thing that his father did, just like ignoring him and allowing his younger wife to say these horrible things to his son. And it's all due to lust, due to the bewilderment of lust in his mind and in his heart. So how do we curb this material lust? How do we get out of this samsara of lust, this cycle of wanting something and then getting it and wanting something else instead? And
No, I would rather hear you.
Thank you so much.
I love humility.
Srila Gurudev actually was asked about this because we're a bunch of young 20-somethings working in Houston, and you've got the men and the women all packed up together. We're in this small temple called the Shoebox on Rosalie Street, 1111 Rosalie. I mean, it was small. You had constantly brushing shoulders with male, female bodies. And so finally, Gurudev came in from Hong Kong one time. He was actually asked point blank, Gurudev, we need to deal with this. Because we were polite to each other, but there were often fights for no reason. Just fault finding, backbiting, things like that. And first of all, he had us go around the room and find 10 good qualities about each devotee. So we had to pick out one devotee and name 10 good qualities and not repeat the same devotee, but go around. But then the other thing he mentioned was deity worship. He said the point is, in Krishna consciousness, lust is there. Why? Because Krishna has. Krishna has. You think this is unique? He said, this is not unique. And he said, by touching the body of the deity, by meditating on the eyebrows of the Lord, you actually become transcendental to that. And so all these devotees lined up for second initiation and consequently went on to have wonderful spiritual lives.
Beautiful.
Because they were with the deities.
Yeah, thank
constantly.
you so much. That goes along with the point that I would make. Nanda Braj shared with me this example of in race car driving, when someone's getting trained how to drive a race car. Do you want to share it actually? Okay. Okay, it'll make it sink in, right? So when someone's getting trained on how to drive a race car, the person sitting in the passenger seat also has a steering wheel and brakes and stuff because they can help control the car. So while they're training, the person in the passenger seat will purposefully make them spin out. Before he makes them spin out, he tells them, do not look at the wall. Look at where you want to go. Otherwise, you're going to run into the wall. And what's the first thing that everybody does? They look at the wall every time. They look at the wall and then they crash into the wall. And so they'll do it again. Okay, this time really don't look at the wall. I'm going to make you spin out. Look where you want to go. Don't look at the wall. But again, the tendency is just naturally, I'm going to look at the wall. So the race car driver will purposefully push their head towards the road or the field, right? Where they want to go. Push their head towards where they want to go. And as soon as they see where they want to go, they don't run into that wall anymore. So this is very applicable for like this deity worship thing. We want to, instead of focusing on these things that capture our attention or these anarthas in our heart, that these unwanted things in our heart, lust, anger, greed, instead of focusing on these things, we need to focus on where we want to go, deity worship, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, bhajan, kirtan, associating with devotees. And the person who can turn our head in that way is our spiritual master or our mentors or Srila Prabhupada through his books and his purport. We have to let them. We have to allow them to turn our head, and we shouldn't be too attached to like focusing on these anarthas, these areas where we're finding difficulty. So yeah, by doing these things, by focusing on where we want to go, basically by engaging in devotional service, this is always the way out. Just chant attentively. Just practice, what we're supposed to be doing, and that's how we get out of this lower energy. Okay, I have 5 minutes before question time, so I'll kind of get through this part quick. The second point that I was going to make was repentance. So we're seeing, and Prabhupada speaks about how King Uttanapad is very repentant or remorseful. And one of my Shiksha gurus, he often tells me there's 3 R's. When you make an offense, there's 3 R's. There's recognition, remorse, and rectification. If you have one without the others, it's pointless. If you can recognize that you did something wrong, but you don't care and you're not going to do anything to fix it, it's pointless. Or if you are remorseful, maybe you recognize and you're remorseful, but you're not going to do anything about it, then it's also pointless. So there has to be rectification as well. We have to actually do something to prove that we're not trying to make this mistake anymore, which we see. King Uttanapad, he says, he just, at this point, he realizes what he did was so wrong. He feels very remorseful, and now he's just like kind of giving up on this whole king thing and just meditating on his son and his love for his son. And so we can do this with devotees when we make mistakes, as we're seeing with King Uttanapad and Dhruva Maharaj, but also in order to get back to Goloka Vrindavan, in order to re-enter our eternal relationship with Krishna, we need to do this with Krishna as well. We need to recognize, I brought myself here due to my lust, due to my desire to enjoy material energy. I brought myself here. I left you, Krishna. Krishna didn't want us to leave, but he loves us, so he gives us free will. He gives us the opportunity. Okay, you want to enjoy without me? I'll allow you to try. I'll allow you to try, but he knows it's not going to work out. That's why he doesn't want us to go, because he doesn't want us to face the misery of trying to enjoy something without him. So we have to recognize, yeah, that was me. That was my bad. I did that. And then we have to feel remorseful. Krishna, I don't know why I did that. I'm really sorry. I'm suffering here without you. And all I want is to return back to you. But what good is that? What good is this remorse if we don't act on it? If we don't then make the necessary changes in our lives to rectify that relationship and enter back into that loving exchange with Krishna. And so we do this the same way that we curb lust, the same way that we can handle anything that this material world throws at us, by devotional service. And that's, there's nine processes outlined, 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So we need to hear about Krishna. This is one process of devotional service. We can chant Krishna's names, chant his glories. We can remember him. We can serve him, serve his devotees. There's so many ways that we can do. And just by perfecting one of these, what to speak of doing all of them? Prabhupada has given us the opportunity to engage in every single one of these processes of devotional service every day. But even if we just pick one and we stick to that wholeheartedly, we can perfect and rectify our relationship with Krishna and return back to him. So these are my main points, and maybe we can open it up for discussion. Yeah.
Hot milk and Krishna book. At night. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, his prescription.
And then dream of Krishna. I was really appreciating your point, both these points of lust and how to overcome lust. And I was thinking about the fact that we can never give something up unless there's something better. What can we do outside of our experience? You know what I mean? Our experience is our experience. And so I heard something recently that said, what kind of thinking, what the thinking that we have creates the problem that we have. So how can that same thinking get us out of that problem? So we have to go beyond our experience to get some kind of understanding about how we can move forward. So I was thinking about that in your explanation of the spiritual master is the one who turns our head, that we need this higher knowledge to give things up and let go. say, okay, let me take this to something that's even better.
Yeah.
So thank you. I really appreciate
Thank
that
you.
point.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and on that, like what you were saying, I had this meditation deeply that this is not a process. Krishna consciousness is not a process of negation. We actually don't, like when people first, maybe if they're actually coming to live in the ashram, we say, okay, follow the 4 regulative principles, you have to give these things up. But when people are just coming around, we don't ask them to give anything up. We don't ask them to stop doing whatever they're doing. We just tell, and this is what Prabhupada did also, we're just following his footsteps. He said, add Krishna. Just add Krishna and continue adding Krishna to your life. And naturally, you won't be attracted to these lower things anymore. This is the process of turning your head towards where you want to go rather than where you don't want to go. So just add Krishna. This is not a process of negating anything. Thank you.
And what a prize we will get.
Yeah, the taste for Krishna consciousness is so much higher than the taste we can have for anything else. Definitely. I think we all have experience of that.
Hare Krishna, Prema.
Hare Krishna.
So you said Srila Prabhupada said there was Smaran, and what were the other ways of devotion?
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Atmanivedanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. There's 9 processes. I can't remember them all in English. We have hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna, praying, worshipping the lotus feet, deity worship, being a servant, being friendship, and offering your entire self to Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prema. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, definitely we can look into that more another time. There's a whole beautiful explanation of all of these.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Any other?
King Kulashekar, it's in the purport describing his glories, each different one of the 9 processes.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on this? Like how we can turn our head towards Krishna instead of looking towards the wall or anything else?
I had a question. So, time and again, we see in Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, where like we have example of Chitraketu, who in attachment was deeply attached to his son, and when his son was killed, he was deeply depressed. Then Dhritarashtra, who in his son's attachment destroyed a whole kingdom. And time and again we have these examples that how someone is attached to their family and really suffers and then comes to their senses. So why is there that focus on family attachment?
I can share a few thoughts. I mean, family attachment is natural. It's just, it's going to be there. Srila Prabhupada also said this, like, even if your family doesn't end up being devotees, like you're still going to feel some sadness when they leave their body. It's just a physical, natural thing. And also with compassion in our heart, even just seeing them as spirit souls, we'll feel love for these people. But especially if they're devotees, like in this case with Dhruva Maharaj, we can be attached to devotees, not on the physical level because they're my son, because they're my offspring or my relative, but on the level of this is a great devotee and I'm meant to serve them. And I'm meant to offer them, the best opportunity to go back to Godhead. So that's what we can, at least in our lives, we can also think of it like that. Even if our children don't decide to take to Krishna consciousness, it's still our duty to be there for them and be their parent. And naturally, the affection will still be there. But we can kind of check it and make sure that it doesn't become overly like on the bodily platform just because they're my, blood. Yeah, Does anyone else have any thoughts about that? Bye.
To be Krishna conscious, we sometimes think that, oh, because we're reducing our attachments or family attachments, and we hear a lot of concepts of renunciation, that it means to become hard-hearted and leave people and not care about other people. But actually, it's the exact opposite. When you're becoming Krishna conscious, you're seeing everybody with Krishna as the center, but now you're attached to everybody in a different way. Before it was just your family, before it was just the people that are immediately close to you, but now you see that everybody is a child of Krishna. So now I care for everybody, and the devotee's heart is always very soft. They care about everybody. They love everybody. They want to serve everybody. So it's not that now, because we're following this path of renunciation, that we renounce these things. You just see everything with Krishna in the vision. Krishna is the center of your vision. So now everything is related to Krishna. So when we see, you have like Parikshit Maharaj, he has to leave his family at the end because he's about to pass away. It's not that he doesn't care about his family. That is that now his priority is a little different. Because in the end, our goal is go to back Krishna. You're in your life, the way you live your life, there's a prescribed duty that you have to follow, and that is your life. But at the end, the most important is that you need to go back to Krishna. So that's what he's showing us by examples. You always care for the people around you. You always show love. But in the end, the goal is to go back to Krishna and take people with you. So that is kind of how Krishna consciousness should be.
Very nicely said. Thank you.
One thing that's very interesting about being a parent is that you spend so many years thinking about becoming a parent and how when you have kids, they're going to be like this and that. When I have kids, they're going to play sports and they're going to be the best shortstop and this and that. We've experienced this probably with our parents, right? And so this is a mode of passion, right? And even it goes to a mode of ignorance when our kids don't become the thing that we want them to be. We start to give them up. Yes, we start to oh, they're not what I want. Matter of fact, it's not reflecting on me well. Therefore, I'm giving it up. This mode of ignorance and mode of passion. So at least we can come up to the mode of goodness and see people for who they are and understand our kids and our children for who they are and how we're serving them to become the best version of themselves. And at least that coming up to the mode of goodness gives us a detachment from it's about me to it's about, oh, how do I serve you? And then it becomes a little bit easier to go to the mode of pure goodness and say, oh, they're servants. They're also children of, like Abai said. But I was kind of thinking that moving to that platform of goodness is an important step to come to that more of pure goodness.
I really appreciate that point also.
Kind of on this topic, I heard from Mother Irmila once in a lecture, and she was talking about how we have this innate desire to give affection, to share affection. It's like kind of built into us. And she said her class was like on Varnashram or something, and basically in the process of renouncing or the renunciate, instead of, basically her theme was they make the entire world their family. It's no longer like, this is my family and this is not my family. Actually, everyone's my family. So in a sense, we are detaching from bodily family, but we're understanding that underneath Krishna, underneath God, we are all siblings. We're all family members, and we should care for everyone. So I guess it's kind of two things. It is like a detachment in one sense, but also an attachment in another sense. These are my siblings.
But I love that point. That's, definitely there. Also, in this life, if we do actually have children of our own, then it becomes like our service, like Nanda Braj was saying, our responsibility. So there is some special attention and some special care that you give to these souls, for sure. And we understand also that through service, you develop attachment in a good way. Like through serving Krishna, we become more attached to him, and serving Guru and serving Vaishnava children. So we'll naturally develop more attachment to those that we serve. So if we have Vaishnava children and we're serving them in that consciousness, then Yeah, there's still gonna be some like different kind of attraction than you might have for the rest of the world, and that's natural. But in the bigger picture, yeah, we should also see that every single soul. We shouldn't really discriminate between souls. Yeah.
Kind of along the lines of what Abai said and what Drishta said, and then some things you said in class kind of triggered this memory for me. You were talking about how, you know, we need the help of like a spiritual guide, a teacher, a guru that can help turn us towards something else. I think you were making that point also, Nanda Braj Prabhu. And then and on the topic of, you know, this kind of seeing everybody and having this love and compassion for all the conditioned souls. Tamal Krishna Maharaj at his last Vyas Puja here in Dallas, at the end of it, he made a point that, you know, wouldn't it be so nice if the love and the appreciation we have for our guru, which naturally, because they've helped, our spiritual teachers helped to change our life. And if we had that love that we have for them, if we had that for every devotee, that same love and appreciation. And then he took it a step further and he said, actually, if we had it for every living entity in the world. And it was like so profound to me, you know, that we have this appreciation naturally, like you're saying, for those that are spiritual teachers and those that are our family. And we have that responsibility for sure. It's not like I'm not going to take care of my kids, you know, but at the same time, to actually have that love for every living entity, then naturally we would, you know, all of the problems we have in the world would go away if we had that natural love and compassion like that, and we'd have this strong desire to share Krishna with everybody and take care of Krishna's sons and daughters, whether they're human beings or animals. And anyways, I just brought that to me. Thank you.
Wow, that's a nice meditation. Try that. My free time, meditate on that. Kaylee?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the very heartwarming class and opening such a nice discussion. These are so many great points about seeing, you know, our real family as in a spiritual way, not like blood or bodily. This is really nice to talk about. I do reflect on this sometimes because not everybody is like, what does like love really look like? Because sometimes some people are more affectionate than others. Some people like have different love languages. So I notice there's some people that just connect with different types of love more. Like I look at someone, my mom, she did not hug or say I love you or anything like this, but she did everything so that we could have a nice life. And then Bhakti Prabhav Maharaj, him also, he is amazing. He's from Belgium, so they definitely have a certain mood. And we never saw him. He taught us Bhakti Shastri. He'd come for class and he'd go to his room. That's it. But I felt so much love from him. And when he left, I felt so much pain. And then sometimes it feels that people just show love in different ways. And so I just want to say that because some people might not resonate so much with all the love and affection and attachment or like this, but can show love in a different way. So, and you know, different love languages will hit the hearts of different people. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Any other thoughts? Another mic?
Yeah. I was just thinking that King Uttanapad, Dhruva, who's a 5-year-old child, was, you know, as a parent, it was his responsibility. He was his responsibility. And under the influence of lust, he kind of neglected him. I was thinking that applies to us that in the influence of lust, we give up our responsibility many times in spiritual life or in just regular everyday, material life, or our duties, just because of some external attraction or attachment, or in the process or in the endeavor to satisfy or chase lust or lusty desires, we may neglect our duties and ultimately our prime duty, which is to develop spiritual life, or to develop discover self-realization. And that's it's just a really interesting connection, that how he neglected his son. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, it manifests in so many ways. Sometimes it's so subtle you barely catch it. It's just one thing makes you finish your rounds too late at night or something, just because you had some desire to enjoy material energy a certain way. It's like, and then it can build on itself. So we have to be very attentive all the time what's really going on in our hearts, in our mind, in our false ego. Okay, I guess we can wrap it up unless there's any final comments. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gauda Premanandi.
Very nice class, Prima.
Turn your head.
No, yeah, that's funny. That was the best part. That's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Such an important. I was really like, I was.
Because it only wasn't a but.
However, though, to adjust your thought, it's so important. The class was so good. That thing was like,
You're impressed.
I was like, whoa, that's expert.
Oh, yay. I mean, better would be if you didn't notice that I had to adjust. If it was like so clean that.
Maybe next time, right?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Thank you for encouraging me.
Just a advanced tip.